Welcome to DarkFrame Stories, where the past hides its secrets and the mountains remember. The winter of 1959 was bitter, even by the standards of the Ural Mountains. Snow blanketed the forest, and the wind carved through the valleys like an invisible knife. A group of 9 experienced hikers, all students from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, set out on a trek they hoped would test their endurance. Led by Igor Dyatlov, the team expected only the thrill of adventure and the satisfaction of conquering harsh terrain. But what awaited them would confound the world for decades. Days passed. The group's planned route through the treacherous slopes was rigorous, but nothing unusual was reported at first. Then, on February 1st, something changed. The hikers made camp on the slopes of Kolatsayako, later known as Dead Mountain. What happened that night is the beginning of a mystery that still chills investigators and historians alike. Rescue teams eventually found the campsite abandoned. The hiker's tent had been cut open from the inside, slashed with such urgency that it suggested panic. Footprints led away from the tent, some barefoot in the snow, moving toward the forest and then vanishing into the darkness. When searchers followed the tracks, the first bodies were discovered, one by one, scattered in the snow, some hundreds of meters from the campsite. Their injuries were inconsistent with an avalanche. Some were missing eyes, others had fractured skulls or broken ribs. Yet oddly, there were no external wounds that could explain the force behind the internal damage. Even stranger, some bodies showed signs of radioactive contamination, while clothing from certain hikers glowed faintly under Geiger counters. And in the middle of one of the deadliest winters, the hikers had abandoned their warm clothing, fleeing into the freezing forest without shoes or coats. The question that would haunt generations: what could have frightened them enough to leave the tent in such a state? What force, natural or supernatural, drove these experienced hikers into the arms of death on a night when no one else dared tread? As the rescue teams pressed deeper into the snow-laden forests, the full scope of the tragedy began to emerge. Each body told a fragment of the story, but none could explain the unthinkable sequence of events that had unfolded on that frozen slope. Some hikers were found near the tree line, their bodies half buried in the snow, as if they had sought shelter in desperation. Others were discovered in positions that suggested they had collapsed mid-run, leaving a trail of footprints leading into the darkness. The cold had preserved them, but it also preserved the questions that would haunt investigators for years. The most confounding details came from the injuries themselves. 3 hikers had fatal internal trauma, fractured skulls and broken ribs, yet showed little to no external damage. Medical examiners struggled to reconcile how such injuries could occur without an overwhelming external force. 2 women were missing their eyes, 1 missing her tongue. Some clothing showed high levels of radiation, a detail that only deepened the mystery. Investigators initially considered an avalanche, but the slope where the tent had been found was too gentle for such an event. There were no signs of the massive snow movement that would be required, and the injuries didn't match typical avalanche trauma. Other theories, infrasound-induced panic, military tests, or even Yeti attacks, were suggested, each more bizarre than the last. Locals whispered of the mountain itself. Kolat-Syakhl, Dead Mountain, had a reputation among the Mansi people as a cursed place, where spirits roamed and the snow claimed the unwary. They spoke of strange lights in the distance and an unnatural wind that drove travelers to madness. Could the hikers have stumbled into something beyond human understanding? The campsite itself told a story of sudden terror. The tent, slashed from within, suggested that the hikers had fled in panic. Footprints led away into the open snow, some barefoot, some in socks, braving temperatures far below freezing. Whoever or whatever had driven them from the tent had left no trace, no predator, no intruder, nothing but the howling wind and deep, unbroken snow. By the time all 9 bodies were found, scattered over a mile-wide area, the world was left with more questions than answers. What had terrified these young, experienced hikers? Why did some suffer unexplained injuries? Why did the mountain seem to claim them with such calculated cruelty? Despite exhaustive investigations, the truth behind the Dyatlov Pass Incident remained elusive. Soviet authorities conducted inquests, interviewed locals, and studied the terrain, but no single explanation could account for the hikers' frantic flight, their bizarre injuries, and the eerie anomalies found at the scene. Some theories pointed to infrasound-induced panic natural wind patterns across the mountains can generate, low-frequency vibrations capable of inducing irrational fear, nausea, and even hallucinations. Perhaps the hikers had experienced this sudden terror, fleeing their tent in a disoriented state, unknowingly wandering into the snow. Others speculated about secret military experiments. During the late 1950s, the Ural Mountains were sometimes used for weapons testing. Could a misfired parachute mine or other classified experiment have triggered panic and injuries? Some point to the radioactive traces on the hikers' clothing as circumstantial evidence. Yet for every rational explanation, there remained the unnerving facts that defied logic. How did some hikers sustain massive internal injuries without external trauma? Why were eyes and a tongue missing from certain victims? How could experienced hikers abandon their warm clothing in sub-zero temperatures, seemingly fleeing an invisible terror? Local legends added another layer of fear. The Mansi people long regarded Kolat-Syakhl as cursed ground, haunted by restless spirits that punished those who dared tread too close. Eyewitness accounts decades later told of strange lights in the snow, ghostly figures on the slopes, and an almost palpable sense of being watched. Could the mountain itself have exacted revenge on intruders? The Dyatlov Pass Incident remains one of history's most haunting mysteries. Each year, thrill seekers, researchers, and paranormal enthusiasts make the treacherous journey to the site, hoping to uncover answers. Yet the snow, the silence, and the secrets of Dead Mountain guard their truth jealously. Some say the hikers' spirits still roam the slopes, forever searching for peace. Others believe that the mountain remembers, that it will never allow the human mind to fully comprehend the horror that unfolded on that frozen night. Dyatlov Pass is more than a mystery. It is a warning. Sometimes nature, legend, and the unknown converge in ways that defy explanation, leaving only questions. and fear. Thank you for watching. Like, share, comment, and subscribe for more. Hit the bell icon to never miss a story. Remember, some mysteries are best left unsolved.